What up? We are in a FIDAC tonight on a playoff Thursday. Yes, we are here. We are doing it. My background set up. Tony Tone. I'm going to get with my man Tony Tone real quick because we have a couple of technical difficulties that we got to iron out. But anyway, what's going on tonight, guys? How y'all doing? I'm sitting here watching Indiana handle Milwaukee. Their energy is a lot higher. Not only is their energy higher, but the schemes are better. They just out-toughen Milwaukee right now. TJ McConnell came in. He gave them that spark off the bench. He gave them that spark off the bench that they needed. Came in and got 2 big steals. In the process of them getting 2 big steals, they turned into buckets. And the momentum changed. Absolutely. The momentum changed. So, with that being said, right? With that being said, let me let's see here. Let's see. Sports boys in the back. Manners. Background music. No, we ain't doing that. Okay. Now I see it. Okay. Now we doing it. Actually, I like this one better. There we go. Now we in business. All right. Now we got the technical stuff out the way. All righty. We in effect. We are in effect. So, like I was saying, Indiana came out with more energy, livelier. TJ McConnell was a big-time spark off the bench. They finished that first quarter. +9. I like it. Jumping Bobby Portis whenever he touches the ball at the elbow. Getting the ball out of his hands. Making other guys like Damian Lillard and Connaughton, making those guys beat them with the long ball, which I'm feeling that. But I want to talk tonight about, I think this series in Indiana, I think this series is over. I do. I'd be surprised if Milwaukee was able to pull this off, especially with Indiana's energy and knowing what's at stake tonight. They know exactly what's at stake tonight. They know that if we don't handle our business and we got to go back to Milwaukee for Game 7, we probably can beat we can beat them, but why go back there? Why not just handle it tonight? Why not just handle it tonight? And that's the same thing going on with the Knicks in Philly. That series, I feel like the Knicks still have the upper hand. I mean, Philly is the one in the hole, down 3. They were down 3-1. Now they're down 3-2. All the heat's on them. All the heat is on them. So, with that being said, the logic is, sure, we could get them back in our building on Sunday afternoon and end it. We could do that. Why wait, though? Why not just get it done tonight? Let's just get this thing over with. Get this thing over with. I'll be waiting on the Indiana-Milwaukee winner. Why wait? So we had some good series so far. Like I'm really liking this Indiana-Milwaukee series. I have watched it. I'm really excited about Minnesota and Denver, but I want to talk a little bit about redundancy. Well, Chill, what do you mean redundancy? What I mean when I say redundancy is, I mean things that aren't necessary, but I have to do it. So, for example, right? For example, I'm watching this Miami Heat Boston series, and it's obvious watching them. It's obvious watching them that Miami is overmatched. And this is a series that should have been over with. This isn't a series that this isn't a series that should be prolonged. This isn't a series that I'm expecting it to go 6, 7. No, absolutely not. I'm going to put this on your mind really quickly, guys, that the Milwaukee Bucks, not the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm sorry, the Boston Celtics, in 4 of the 5 games that they played against the Miami Heat, had them 34, 29, 28, and 38 in a hole. That's on average. They had them during the game. On average, they had them 34 in a hole. This team can't compete with us. If we played them 10 times, we beat them 10 times. They can't compete with us. They don't have the personnel to beat us. But if we played them 10 times, let me rephrase that. If we played them 10 times, we beat them 9. What they did in game 2, that's what it would take for them to beat us throughout the course of a series, which, by the way, Tyler Hero in this series. After game 2, so games 3, 4, and 5, Tyler Hero was 19 for 52. Not only was he 19 for 52 from the floor, that's about 35%. He was 5 for 23 on the long ball. That's about 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 long balls he's shooting are going in. 4 out of every 5 long balls he's shooting are not going in. Game 2, he had 14 assists. Games 3, 4, and 5, he had 9 assists combined. This is what you saw in game 2 is astronomical. What you saw in game 2 is unlikely. That's not going to happen again. And Jimmy Butler, adding Jimmy Butler to that lineup would not have made a difference. It would have just ended in 5 games or maybe 6. Because if you think that Jimmy Butler pushes them over the top for how they dominated Miami, you got to think that Jimmy Butler's a top 5 player in the game. Because it can't just be because he's tougher. It can't just be that. There's no way you can believe that Jimmy Butler is the difference in a team getting thrown 34 in a hole on average. There's no way that you can believe that a team that's getting thrown 34 a game on average in a hole to now pushing this thing to 7 games and possibly winning the series. If you believe that, you have to believe that Jimmy Butler, if he's not the best player in the game, he's easily a top 5 player in the game. Easily. And don't try to sell me the logic. Yo, the numbers go out the window, because no, they don't. No, they do not. No, they don't. No, they do not. They've handled the Miami Heat all year long. They went into their building with Jimmy Butler earlier this year and smoked them with Jimmy Butler. Then they beat them without Jimmy Butler. So the last, I believe, 6 or 7 games of the regular season at home, I think Boston won by an average margin of 31 a game. They were destroying everybody. So this series between them and the Miami Heat, this series between them and the Miami Heat was a series that I feel like when they won game 2, I got a lot of heat, but it just prolonged the inevitable. That's all it did. It just prolonged the inevitable. And I got roasted. Yeah, chill. What's going to happen now? What do you think is going to happen now? Your boys better not choke. I heard crickets after game 2. I didn't hear anything from anybody. Nothing. Not a word from anybody. And that's because what you saw in game 2 was an anomaly. I think this Miami Heat team, I don't think that they were starved of talent. I thought that they had good talent. I just feel like they were more of a cohesive unit that prided themselves on doing things the Miami Heat way, very much like what the Knicks are doing. Very much like what the Knicks are doing. They prided themselves on doing things the Miami Heat way. And in the process of them doing things the Miami Heat way, it worked. A lot of those guys, Caleb Martin, Tyler Hero, Bam, Gabe Vincent, who moved on to Los Angeles, and Max Strus, who moved on to Cleveland. But those 3 guys in Bam, Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Jovic, those guys are homegrown. Now, sure, you sprinkle in Buckets, who was in his prime when they got him in the 2019-2020 season. When they got him, he was 30 years old or 29. He was either 29 or 30. I think he was 28. He was 29 years old when they got him. He turned 30 on opening night. So he was very much in his prime. He's basically what Pascal Siakam is in terms of age, what Giannis is. So they got him in his prime. With that being said, I think that you've maximized this unit. I think everything that you're going to get out of this unit, you've gotten it. Does that mean that you still can't be competitive? Yeah, I think you can still be competitive because Bam, I think these are prime Bam years from, I think this season, I think you got probably 5. I think you got 5 more, maybe 6 more 20 and 10 seasons. Maybe. You might get a 25 and 12 season. I'm not saying that you will. You might. Throughout the course of this whole thing, you might get a 25 and 12 season. Maybe. And with that being said, he's only 26 years old. Tyler Hero, I think he's 24, I'm sorry. He turned 24 years old this year. You have pieces to build around, young pieces. I don't know how much longer you hold on to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's looking for a $113 million 2-year extension. That tells me, because Buckets will be 35 on opening night. That tells me after this deal is up, he's out. That's what that tells me. It's a wrap. So if they extend him, they're extending him with the idea that maybe we can still compete for a championship. And if I know anything about Pat Riley is not rolling over. I think he's going to run it back. I do. I think he's going to run it back. I think that he may call up Phoenix. He may ask for Devin Booker. He may ask for Bradley Beal, who he wanted in the beginning, but the problem was the money. That was the biggest problem. It was the money. And the owner wouldn't sign off on it. And I don't blame him because Bradley Beal's deal, 50, 53, 57 million over the next 3 years. It's $160 million that they owe him. For an injury-prone guy, not injury-prone, a guy that's starting to break down. How many more years do you think Bradley Beal got at this level? So I don't think that the Miami Heat are that far away. I don't think that they're a team that's destitute, but they're not close to the Celtics. No, they're not. And they're not this team that can just turn it on come playoff time. That was an anomaly last year, what you saw. What you saw in 22 When they lost to the Celtics in the finals, that's who they are. In the East Finals, that's who they are. What you saw in 2020, that's who they are. Hard nose, grind it out, tough Heat team. That's who they are. What you saw last year was an anomaly. What Jimmy Butler did in the first round against Milwaukee, I'm not sure if I've seen that, and I haven't seen that in a long time. Let me rephrase that. I'm not saying that I'm not sure I've seen it, because I seen Bryant average 35 in a playoff series. I seen Jordan average 45 in a playoff series. I seen James average 34 in a playoff series early. So this isn't something that's unusual. Oh no, it isn't. But to keep that momentum going, man, that's hard to do. That is hard to do. And the way that Al Horford, not just Al Horford, but the way that the Boston Celtics specifically hunted Tyler Hero was awesome. Specifically, they went after him. And it wasn't just switching, getting Al Horford on him, and him getting Al Horford in the post, and Al Horford getting him in the post and roughing him up. It wasn't just that. It was when he was matched up against Jaylen Brown. I don't think KP took enough of an advantage. I don't think he took as much advantage of him as I would have liked to have seen him do. But those other guys did. Jaylen Brown attacked him. Al Horford attacked him. That's absolutely the plan. That was the plan with Tyler Hero. Attack him. Make him almost unplayable. Make him almost unplayable. And it worked. It absolutely worked. So, in closing, I think that this is put to bed. You guys can try to sell me that, well, Jimmy Butler was hurt, and if Jimmy Butler was healthy, the way that the Boston Celtics dominated them, if you think Jimmy Butler would have made that much of a difference, the way that the Celtics dominated him, you have to believe Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player. You have to believe that. Because there's no way that a team beats a team 4 times in 5 tries, and they have them in a hole on average in those 4 wins. They have them in a hole on average by 34. 34 in a hole on average. If you think that there's one guy who can change that, whether it's the attitude, the schemes, the landscape of the series, if you believe that, you got to believe that Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player. You have to believe that he's better than almost everybody else. If you believe that, watching how the Boston Celtics dominated them, you have to believe that. I don't believe that, because I don't think Jimmy Butler makes that much of a difference in this series. I don't. I think that this series ends exactly like it did, whether it's in 4, whether it's in 5, 6 games tops. 6 games tops. Because I saw them stomp Miami with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. They came down here and they stomped them with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. And without Jimmy Butler in the lineup on a Sunday afternoon, stomped them again. So when you're talking about personnel, the Heat don't have it. When it comes to the Boston Celtics, they're not close to those guys. They're not. So with that being said, they got some work to do in the offseason. They do. But they got some building blocks. They have Bam, 26 years old. They have Tyler Hero, 24 years old. They got Jovic. I think he's 22, 21, something like that. Kid. Duncan Robinson's still a young guy. Undrafted, long ball shooter. So hold that phone, hold that thought. I got a super chat really quick. Jay Takashi says the Heat need to rebuild as soon as possible, or They're not contenders anymore. They need a star, literally, otherwise sink. But what pieces would you add? Well, let's discuss what pieces would I add. I think you already have your centerpiece, and Bam. I think you have a viable trading option in Tyler Hero, 24 years old, contract is trade friendly. He's got a team friendly contract, and I think that you can move off of that. You ain't getting a star back though. I don't think that you're getting a star back for Tyler Hero. You got to go into free agency and see if you can land one of these free agents this summer. Now, remember what we did? What are we in 2024? Remember what we did in 21 when Julius Randle signed with the Knicks? We were like, whatever. We didn't really think much of it. We did not think much of it, only except Julius Randle turned out to be an all-pro. He turned out to be an all-pro. So Pat Riley can work his magic. I think that they need, I think Terry Rozier comes off the books after this season, if I'm not mistaken. I think Terry Rozier, either he comes off the books after this season, or if he doesn't come off the books after this season, and he's also in his prime too, he's 29 years old. If he doesn't come off the books after this season, which he doesn't, he's still got 2 more years left on his deal. I feel like that's another trade. I feel like that's another trade piece, because maybe that neck injury is a lot worse than what we know. Maybe that neck injury is a lot worse than what we know. A lot worse. I don't know. So, with that being said, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, when these guys are healthy, they're good players. Could I package those 2 guys up for a star? A lead guard to build around Bam? Do I call up the Brooklyn Nets and ask for Mikal Bridges? Because I think Mikal Bridges is great in Miami. I don't think he's good in Miami. I think he's great in Miami. And you can move Jimmy back to his natural position, which is the 2. Call up Brooklyn and ask them what they want for Mikal Bridges. And if it's reasonable, I don't think that it's ridiculous to get him down to South Florida. Call up the Golden State Warriors. Check their temperature on Draymond. How y'all feeling about Draymond these days? What do you think of Draymond these days? But I think Draymond is a little bit redundant in that offense, because what Bam does is what Draymond would do. And I think that you have some redundancy there. So I think I'm going to pass on Draymond. And I think he's more of a headache than he is. I think he's more of a headache than what he's worth, to be honest with you. We want to stay competitive. We definitely want to stay competitive. The Celtics, I think Porzingis may miss the playoffs. This injury is a lot worse than what they're telling us. It's a lot worse than what they're telling us. It may very well be what Giannis has. And he could be out. They said, when they say several games, they say several games, not he could be out several games. He's going to be reevaluated in several games. So he's definitely missing the semifinals. Let's get to the bottom of that right now. He's not playing in the semifinals. He's not playing in the semifinals, so he's going to miss the semifinals. With that being said, can they beat Cleveland without Porzingis? I think they can beat Cleveland without Porzingis. It's going to be harder though. It's going to be a lot harder, because now Evan Mobley goes up against the kid who, you guys know how I feel about Evan Mobley. He goes up against Al Horford, and I think that's going to be I think that's going to be tough for him. But if you look at Cleveland's layout, right? If you look at Cleveland's layout, so you got if you look at Boston's layout, you got Drew, Jalen, Jason, Derek White, Al Horford. What are you guys going to do with those two big guys on the front line in Cleveland? I think Cleveland ends Orlando. I'm sorry. I think Cleveland ends Orlando tomorrow night. But what are you guys going to do with both Jared Allen and Evan Mobley on that front line? And Evan Mobley defends on the perimeter. He defends in the post. He rebounds. So that means that run and gun style, I feel like we can defend that. And we can counter that too with shooting the long ball with Max, with Donovan Mitchell, with Karis LeVert. But I don't want to get into that kind of game. I don't want to get into that kind of game with the Boston Celtics. No, I don't. We could shoot the long ball, but I don't want to get into that kind of game with those dudes. No. I want my big guys. I want Jared Allen and I want Evan Mobley. I want these guys eating. And if I'm going to speed the game up, I'm speeding the game up with those guys rim running. Because that means that Jason Tatum is going to have to deal with one of those big guys. Because at the Al Horford, he's the next biggest guy at 6'9". And all I want with Evan Mobley is I want him rim running, and I want Jared Allen rim running. Absolutely, I want both of those guys rim running. So, with that being said, Boston has shown with their offense, without KP, because he's missed a number of different games, and they've still won. So it's not like they're destitute without him, right? He's missed a number of games this season, right? And this is kind of who he is. I mean, he missed 25 games this season. They still won 64 games. Still. Now, I think he's the difference in them winning and losing off the strength of how they use him. And he's somebody that other teams, the majority of the teams in the league can't counter. The majority of the teams in the league cannot counter KP. I think Denver can counter him. I think Minnesota can counter him. But Cleveland, they would have a difficult time countering him. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, yeah, they would have a difficult time countering him, considering what Boston does offensively. They'd have a really tough time countering him. But they don't have to worry about that because he's going to miss the series. He's going to miss the series, so they get to concentrate solely on those guys. How we slow Jason Tatum down. How do we slow Jaylen Brown down? What do we do about the Drew Holiday problem? And their rotation guys in Xavier Tillman, in Pritchard, in Cornette. Because, excuse me, people see Cornette and they automatically think, bum. I watched him in that series against Miami and he was serviceable. Yes, he was. He was serviceable. I think he could be serviceable against Cleveland too. I do. That's another big body that you now have to deal with, that you can throw at Jared Allen, that you can throw at Evan Mobley. I think that works. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I do think that Cleveland ends this series tonight. Tonight. Tomorrow night. I think that they end the series tomorrow night. I think that all the heat, not some of it or most of it, I think all the heat is on the Orlando Magic. All of it. And the reason why I feel like that is off the strength that, one, it's at home. Two, it's an elimination game. So you got everybody behind you. You got everybody rubbing your back. You got everybody cheering for you. It's in your building. It's an elimination game. You guys ended up tying the series. Both Franz and Paolo have not played well at the same time. It's either Paolo or Franz. It's either Franz or Paolo. All the heat is on Orlando. All of it. Can they overcome that? I don't know. I think you're asking a lot. I do. I think that you're asking a lot. So with that being said, right? With that being said, I think it's going to be a good series. I think that Cleveland is going to make the series a lot more competitive than you guys think. I still think that I still think that the Celtics, I think that they handle Cleveland in 5 games, maybe 6. I still think that they handle them off the strength of how good their offense is. And as good as Cleveland's defense is, I think Boston's offense is better. And I don't think that Cleveland's offense is good enough. Because I see how Donovan Mitchell's got to get busy. And I'm a Donovan Mitchell guy. I think he's the best 2 guard in the game. In this series, he's going to have to get busy. And I'm talking about right from the gate. I can't ease myself into it. Because Boston has that kind of offense. Boston has that kind of team where if you ease yourself into it, by the first TV timeout, we could be 15 in a hole. Now, Boston's going to let you back in because that's how they play. They will ultimately let you back in games. I get that. But for the most part, I can't realistically see with the way that offense is constructed in Cleveland that you guys can really compete unless Donovan Mitchell goes toe-to-toe with Jason Tatum, which I think he can do. I think he can do that. And not just toe-to-toe with Jason Tatum. If he can go toe-to-toe with that Boston team, if he can go toe-to-toe with them, I think they've got a shot. Speaking of getting shot, speaking of a shot, Dallas has a shot to get to the West Finals. I saw that Mavs game. I feel like this series, the same way I felt about Miami and Boston, I feel like that with the Clippers. I do. Like the series should have already been over. Y'all should have ended these dudes already. These dudes should already be out. And I knew it was coming. And what I mean when I say I knew it was coming, that James Harden game, like I had a really interesting conversation with my man Mars today. And Mars says to me that the James Harden rhetoric is overblown. I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is because it's not the fact that he's going to have one of these games. It's when he has it. See, I watched Michael Jordan in 1993 against the Knicks. In the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Championship, he wasn't very good. He was not very good. No. But he had some time to make that up. He wasn't even that good in game 3. He did the other stuff that helped, but he wasn't that good. Now, what I mean when I say early, the Bulls could withstand Jordan having 1 or 2 of those games early in the series. You think that game 3, you think that game 2 that Jordan had, you think that he could have that kind of game 5? He can't do that in game 6. He can't. They don't beat the Knicks. 1, it's in Madison Square Garden. I'm sorry, it's in Chicago. And 2, game 5. I'm sorry. Game 5 would have been in Madison Square Garden. And 2, you don't have a lot of time to recover, as opposed to when I do it in game 2 or game 1. I got some time to get myself back acclimated in the series. And James Harden, I know that guy is going to show up. I'm not on the fence about that. I know for a fact that guy is going to show up, and he did yesterday. He did yesterday, and the logic was make him guard. Put James Harden on the defense. Very much like I just told you what the Celtics did with Tyler Hero, where they consistently went after him. That's what Dallas did yesterday with James Harden. Go after him. Don't let him off the hook on any plays. I don't care who he switched on to. Luka, if he switched on to you, go after him. We make a conscious effort to go after him. See, Luka actually has guys who can protect him more than James Harden has, because James Harden to this day has more reputation defenders than he has actual defenders. One, Leonard isn't in the series. Paul George isn't the defender that he used to be. Norman Powell is serviceable as a defender. Russ should have been much more of a defender in his career than he was. If I had to grade Russ as a defender throughout the course of his career, I give him a C. Maybe a C+. Russ should have been an all-league defender at some point in his career. He should have been playing at that level. The fact that he didn't make the all-league defensive team, I'm okay with that, because there are guys who play at that level that don't make it. Just like there's guys who play at a defensive player of the year level, but don't win defensive player of the year, like Tim Duncan. Prime example. But the fact that Russell Westbrook never was like that, right? He was never like that as a defender is a bit disheartening. Now, let me say this, right? Let me say this. All of those guys on that crew, Leonard is out of the series. Paul George is a reputation defender. Russell Westbrook, I feel like, is an underachieving defender. I think Norman Powell is serviceable. Coffey is, I think he's also serviceable. You don't really have anybody to protect James Harden like you do in Dallas with Derek Jones Jr. on the wing. You got those big guys in Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford in the paint. You got those guys to protect James Harden. Not to protect Luka. You have those guys to protect him. So when you have those guys to protect him, life gets a lot less difficult for Luka. James Harden, on the other hand, you don't have those guys like you did in Philly when you had Joel Embiid. When you had the guys that you have, like Maxey is a solid defender. You had guys who can protect James Harden. So I think that they did a great job, Dallas. I think Dallas did a great job in going after James Harden. And the reason why it didn't work as much with Luka is because Luka has guys to protect him. I want you to couple that in with the fact that Luka actually got going. Luka actually got going, and with him getting going and his shot going in, that's an even bigger problem now for the Clippers. James Harden doesn't have it going, even though to start, he was actually doing a really good job facilitating and playmaking, getting the ball to Zubac. I like the fact that they went to Zubac early. I really dug that because that helped their offense. But guys like Terrence Mann and Coffey, you're not going to be able to protect James Harden, and they couldn't. James Harden getting downhill, trying to get to the rim, even though he was able to do that in game 1, in game 2, in game 3. He was able to do that. He picked a fine time for his shot not to fall. Picked a fine time for him to be inefficient. Which goes back to my original logic when I tell you, when you are in a series, it's better to be bad early than it is late. Because we had time to fix this when I'm bad early. When I'm bad late, we don't really have a lot of time to fix this. We don't. So I thought Derek Jones Jr. was great keeping defenses honest. He was able to, and it's obvious that he was working on his shot in the offseason because he was knocking down the long ball. keeping the defense honest, playing defense, doing everything that he could against Paul George. And because he was doing what he could do, because he was doing what he could on the defensive end against Paul George and making Paul George play defense, that was a plus for Dallas. And I can't leave out the most important aspect of this. I can't leave out the most important aspect of it. You might think it's Dallas's front line with Lively and Gafford, those guys running the floor. No, the fact that they got 35 points from their bench, you didn't account for that. You did not account for that. The example that I gave is every month you put aside dough for things. Okay, this is for the light bill. This is for the rent. This is for food. This is for entertainment. This is for gas. You put dough aside for all of these things. So that's all accounted for. But then all of a sudden, this $250 expense comes up. Like, wait a minute, I was not prepared for that. And I don't have it. Not only am I not prepared for it, I don't have it. It'd be one thing if I wasn't prepared for it, but okay, I can adjust because I got something for that. I don't have anything for that. And the Dallas Mavericks got 35 points from their bench, from Lively, from Exum, from Green, from Maxey. He hit 5 threes yesterday, 5 for 7 on the long ball. We weren't prepared for that. We weren't. We were prepared for him to play, and we know who he is. It's not like Maxey came out of nowhere. If Kleber came out of nowhere, that's bad business on your part as a scout, as you prepare for this crew. That's bad game planning on your part, because it's not like Kleber came out of nowhere. He's been in the league doing this sort of stuff for quite a while. He did it in Dallas when they played against Utah. He's been doing it. So with that being said, Kyrie Irving only has 14 points. And the reason why Kyrie Irving only has 14 points is because he doesn't have to do a ridiculous amount of work off the strength that I got 35 from my bench. And Luka's got it going. When dudes like that get it going, when Luka gets it going, plus I'm getting that extra 35 from the bench, plus I'm getting what I'm getting from Derrick Jones. Derrick Jones being able to knock down the long ball, I can't tell you how valuable that is. And the fact that Luka can go to Kyrie Irving for buckets. The fact that Luka can go to Kyrie Irving for buckets, which is something that he's not been able to do in the past, where, excuse me, where he's had to be responsible for Tim Hardaway, Exum, all of these guys in the past. He's been responsible for their offense. To have a guy in Kyrie Irving where I can just get off the pill and let him work, man. You know how much less difficult that makes my life? I get to chill out on offense. Even though I don't like Dallas's offense, because I felt like Luka has to do a little bit too much. I always felt like that. Like, there's no reason for this dude to have to go 37, 18, 14. Like, why is he doing all of that? Where are the rest of you guys? What are the rest of you guys doing? Now, the fact that he doesn't have to do that, where he can go to Irv, and Irv gets in the cooker, and Irv gets these guys one-on-one and puts a lot of rim pressure on that defense, especially in transition. Not just with his stop and pop, but him getting to the rim. He does that. That makes life so much less difficult for Luka. So much less difficult for him. I think this series between Dallas and the Clippers is over. I thought that it would be over in 5. And I said that to you guys earlier. I felt the same way about this Miami Heat series. The same way I felt about this Miami Heat series, I feel the same way about this Clippers series. This series should have been over already. This series should have already been over. 5 games. This series should have been done. When they gave you guys that game, when they gave you that game in game 2 in their building, the attitude should have been, last night when y'all went back there, when y'all went back there in game 5, that's when we wrapping up the series. But they come to your building and Paul George, not just Paul George, but the Clippers shoot 80% on the long ball in the first quarter. I don't care who you go get. Go get the 72 Lakers. Go get the 96 Bulls. Go get the 87 Lakers. Go get the 86 Celtics. Go get whoever you want to go get. Go get the 2005 Spurs. Go get the 2007 Spurs. Go get the 2001 Lakers. None of y'all are beating them. None of y'all. Go get the 15 or the 16 Warriors. Y'all not beating them when they shooting like that. Not happening. Kill it. It's just not happening. So, with that being said, this Dallas crew can take care of business tomorrow night. I'm doing that tomorrow night on playback too, by the way. If you're interested, come check me out. I'll be in playback tomorrow night doing that game, and I think it's at 9:30 tomorrow night. Should be good. Should be real good. I think that Knicks series has gotten more entertaining, and I feel like it's gotten more competitive. And you guys might roast me for this, but I get 2006 Laker vibes with this series. I feel like the Knicks squandered a golden opportunity, man. I do. I feel like they had an opportunity to end this thing. Instead, they let them back in. I want you to rewind the clock back to 2006. The Lakers are up 3-1 on Phoenix, and they're Tim Thomas hitting the 3 away from icing the series. Series is over. We moving on. Series is over. Instead, Tim Thomas hits a 3. The game goes into overtime. They beat the Lakers. They go back home. Kobe puts 50 on them in that game 6. It's not enough. It's not enough. And they lose game 7. I feel like I'm getting that kind of vibe with this Knicks season, with this Knicks team. Because I feel like that game should have been over 2 nights ago. That game should have been over. Ain't no way we should be back in Philly playing in a game 6. Even though I think the Knicks are going to win, there's no way we should be back here. This series should be over. The Philadelphia 76ers should be packed up, heading to Cancun. That's where they should be. Instead, here we are in game 6. And in Philadelphia tonight, it is going to be a madhouse. It's going to be a madhouse. And the 76ers, what they do, they get action early. But when we get into the meat and potatoes of the game, what do? When we get into the meat and potatoes of the game, they get the ball to Joel Embiid at the elbow. They get the ball to Joel Embiid at the long ball line, and they let him work. What the Knicks counter is to that is they jump Joel Embiid. Jump him. Get the ball out of his hands. Make somebody else do it. Stick with, and don't double off Maxey. Don't. Do not double off Maxey. We're not doubling off Maxey. We're not, depending on what the personnel is, we're not doubling off Maxey. We're not doubling off Kelly Oubre. No, we're not doubling off those 2 guys. I'll double off Kyle Lowry. I dare Kyle Lowry to make shots. If Kyle Lowry makes shots, absolutely. Knock yourself out, brother. I'm all for that. All for that. The Knicks have made the Sixers play their game. That's what they've done. They've made Philly play their brand of basketball. That's why it's been working. And they had them beat. The 2 games that they've kept Josh Hart off the glass are the games that they won. Other than that, this series would be over. The 3 games that they lost, I believe he's had 15 rebounds, 14 rebounds, 17 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. I can go back and let me fact check myself, right? Let me fact check myself and make sure that I got these numbers right. Because the three games that they won, he's had 13 rebounds, 15 rebounds, 17 rebounds. The games that they lost, he had 6 boards, 9 boards. Those are the games where they did a relatively good job keeping him off the glass. They did a relatively good job keeping him off the glass. He had almost a 20 and 20 game. He had a 20 and 15 game. He had a 22 and 13 game. That's what we're doing with him. So the reason why Philly is still in this series, I don't think it's just because Joel Embiid is playing the way he is or Maxey went for 44. I think the Knicks gave that game away. When you're up 2 possessions with 28 seconds, 96 points was enough points to win. We had enough points to win this game. There's no way that you can sell me with 28 seconds that we don't have enough points to win. I'm not even, let's just say for the sake of argument, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument, you don't foul Maxey and you let him crack a 3. We're still up 3, get the ball in bounds, take the ball down the floor, make free throws, let's get the hell out of here. We got enough points to win. We've made enough baskets to win. All we got to do is, because they're going to have to foul. They are going to have to foul. Because we get the ball in, we get the ball in bounds quick, and we get the clock running. Because they want to go fast. When Miles McBride hit that free throw shot, when Miles McBride hit that shot at the free throw line, that's game. It's 28 seconds. They got to go quick. We don't have to foul. No, we don't have to foul. If they want to hit a 3, knock yourself out. We're still up 3. And with us being up 3, get the ball in bounds. They got to foul. Right? They have to foul. And with them having to foul, go to the free throw line, ice the game. Josh Hart on the other hand, he goes to the free throw line and he misses 1 of 2 free throws. That's your ball game right there, yo. That's your ball game right there. He makes both of those free throws. It's a 2 possession game. You're up 4. Now here we go with Philly again, scrambling. And you wonder why Mitchell Robinson wasn't effective in overtime. The reason why he wasn't effective in overtime is because he wasn't there. He's still in regulation, stuck on the fact that he fouled Maxey for a 4-point play. He ain't off that. He's still on that. So you wonder why he's not doing what he should be doing in overtime. Because he ain't here. He's somewhere else. He's still in regulation. That's where he is. That's why you didn't see him in the 2 minutes that he played in overtime. He didn't get a rebound. He wasn't effective at all. I didn't see anything from him. I didn't see much from him. And the reason why is because he's in here, he's still in regulation. This game should already be over with. This game should already be over with. And the reason why it wasn't was because he fouled. And he was still stuck on that. So I think that this series ends tonight. I think that Philly wraps this up. Not Philly, I'm sorry. I think the Knicks wrap this up in Philly. And I think that they move on to the Indiana Pacers, who are they end in Milwaukee tonight. I was so disappointed in them. I was so disappointed in them in that game 5. So disappointed in them. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, why prolong this? Why? I understand that, we could get them in our building, we get the energy, and we can end it. Do I want to risk that, though? I don't want to risk that. You saw no Giannis. You saw no Damian Lillard in the lineup. You thought them dudes was going to roll over. That's what you thought. You came out with a different energy tonight, though. You came out with much more energy tonight. You were flying all over the place. You were ready to rock and roll. The double teams were crisper. You were defending more, which I can't believe I'm saying this about Indiana, but you were defending more late in the shot clock. That's not really who you guys are. You guys are something completely different than that. Completely different than that. But the fact that you did that, that boosts your energy. And I think that sucks the energy out of the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think that series ends tonight. And I think the Knicks and Indiana get it on to go to the Eastern Conference Championship in, I think it's Sunday. That series starts. Yeah, I think that series starts Sunday afternoon. Mm-hmm. We get to chill at home. We jump on a plane on Saturday, head over to New York. We play them on Sunday afternoon. Yep, we got the 1 o'clock game. Or maybe it's the late game. Maybe it's the 7 o'clock game. Maybe, I don't know. So I was disappointed in them. And I know what you guys are thinking with this being the second year in a row that the Milwaukee Bucks lose in the first round. Giannis is hurt again. Is he going to ask out? Is he going to demand to be traded? And the answer is no. And the reason why the answer is no is because the Bucks are serious about accommodating him. You're the one who got hurt. We're not out in round one if you're here. So this isn't an us problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like this roster needs some more construction. Like the house is being built. It's not move-in ready yet, though. No, it's not. The bathroom still needs some work. You still have to put lining on. You still got to put lining on the roof. This house is not finished yet. No. Still got work to do. A lot of work to do. And they're willing to do that. I think Milwaukee is willing to do that. I don't think Milwaukee is looking at Giannis going, listen, we've done everything that we can for you. If you want out, then no. They go out in the offseason and they go get a defender. They go get a defender on the wing. 100% they do that. They go get a defender on the wing. I think that they upgrade at the 5 spot because I feel like Brook Lopez, as good as he still is, he's a little long in the tooth. And I think it's time to move on from him. I do. And get younger at that position. That's not to say that Brook Lopez is over or that he's whack. It's just that it's time to upgrade at that position. And I think one of the phone calls that you should make, is to New Orleans. Check Valanciunas' temperature. See what's going on with him. Now, some people will say, well, what about the spacing? You know, you had a 5-man in Brook Lopez who can space. Yeah, well, Valanciunas can knock down the mid-range. When we get in the half court, when we get in the half court, that's what Damian Lillard is for. That's what Malik Beasley is for. And you design that offense to get those guys open shots, to stretch the defense, and continue to get your big guys involved. That's how that offense needs to be designed. So I'm cool calling up New Orleans, not even calling up New Orleans because he's a free agent at the end of the season. When free agency opens, pick the phone up and call Valanciunas. Check his temperature. What's the story, big fella? What you interested in? Who are you interested in? Because we're trying to win it over here. For lack of a better term, we ain't bullshit. We're trying to win it over here. You upgrade at the 5 in Milwaukee. You get a defensive-minded wing. And I know this isn't going to happen, but I love Herb Jones in Milwaukee. I don't like Herb Jones in Milwaukee. I love him in Milwaukee. If Herb Jones is in Milwaukee, I think that they are right there. They may win the Eastern Conference Championship with Herb Jones. Because I think he's exactly what they need as a wing defender. Exactly what they need. He takes all the pressure off of all of those other dudes. All of them. But I'm not going to be able to get him. So, well, guys, it's about that time for me. It was good to see you guys tonight. It's the playoffs, man. It is the playoffs. I will be around. I'm on playback tomorrow night. I will be back here really soon. Check for updates. You will get notifications when I'm on again. So check for updates when it says me in particular, because I know there's a lot of traffic on the channel as of late. But check for notifications for when it's me, and I will see you guys soon. Absolutely, I will. But until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. Call your mother. When last time you talk to your mother? Call your mother. I will see you guys soon, man. But until then, take it light. Take it. Absolutely. It was good to see you guys tonight.